everybody. Rob Moretti here. Once again for another chat. We're joined today by our local athletic directors, Barry Suman from Amerenik, Joe Seglia from Ryan Neck. Barry and Joe, nice to see you. How you doing today?
Great, thanks for having us.
It's really just want to start with kind of recapping how we got to this point. I remember in early to mid March, Barry, I think it was the last in-person meeting I had with any other human. We were hashing out the sports, the spring broadcast schedule. And I think we were briefly talking about like one or two schools had to be closed for a couple of weeks and how that might impact the schedule. And man, things clearly just escalated from that point on. It's obviously now at this point, the announcement coming a week ago today that the school year is off in terms of in-person learning. And with that, sports are done at least until the fall as well.
Yeah, it seems out of body, and it really seems like a long time ago that we had that conversation. There was, at that point, I really did just think it was that, the couple of weeks, and then we'd figure out how to get kind of back into things or an abbreviated form. I didn't think that we'd be here now on May 8th, shut down for the year.
Right, and Joe, how did things kind of progress for you? I know you kind of had inklings that things might be slowly shutting down, but you don't want to say anything too publicly and get everyone's hopes down. And what was that process like for you?
Yeah, the initial thought was, all right, this is gonna be 2 weeks. It'll be something that passes through, and we'll reopen schools and sports, and we'll just figure out how we're gonna just restart. And then as the time went on, and just the wave, we just succumbed to the wave of it. And health and safety is paramount. So you really needed to just shut it down and go from there. And I feel terrible, as Barry does as well. A lot of athletic directors had conversations. We'll get through this and we'll be fine in the long run. And as adults, we're in better shape to handle this. But kids, it's gonna be really tough. I couldn't imagine Barry and myself as former high school athletes. Losing your senior year is tough. And not only that, but losing, if you're a junior or sophomore, just not having the opportunity to play. It's a very short window of time that you get to play high school sports and get to represent your community and play with your teammates. And some of my fondest memories and relationships I have to this day go back to my high school teammates, whether it was championship teams or teams that didn't win any games. It's just local community and that local feel. And it's not fair to the kids, but athletics hopefully has taught them, giving them a skill set to address it and to be better on the end of this than going through it now. And we tip our hats to them and certainly support them, and we'll be okay in the long run. But I do feel bad, as all athletic directors do, for this senior class in particular.
And really, everyone's first thought is about the senior class, and I think as it should be, losing their final athletic season here. I'm wondering what kind of message, beyond what you've already said, and Barry as well, do you have for your seniors and the work they have put in to this point to try to be part of the program?
I would think that, just piggybacking off of what Joe said, is as an athlete, you've failed numerous times and come back. This is just a minor setback. It's not the end all be all. Again, seniors who will not have the opportunity to compete again at all in a similar structure. I mean, we look each day and, Joe did a great job of celebrating his athletes in Rhinebeck. We're going to get to celebrate ours in Mamaroneck. And the idea that nothing is like competing for your high school and not being able to step on the field with those friends. Like, even if you are going to have the next experience, and Joe and I did at different levels, we're able to participate in the next experience at the collegiate level. But the high school athlete, which is where, the athletics may end for some, to just say that was done is something that you're going to have to come to terms with, and you're going to have to put a narrative to it and process it. And I do hope that the skills that they've been taught throughout their community athletics and being a part of, our communities are together, and some of their higher level teams will help them persevere and come back stronger and look for different outlets. I mean, again, Joe and I are both athletic directors, but we're also both directors of health and phys ed, and just, moving forward with curriculum and telling kids the best thing you could do right now is get out there and move. It's going to make you feel better.
Yeah, it's one of the messages that we sent out to the community and to the athletes is, one thing I hope they take away from this is tomorrow's not promised. So for the underclassmen, attack whatever we have left in the future, their futures, their high school careers, with tenacity and just relentlessness, and really embrace it. And for those seniors, as you move into college, you move into next stages of your life, fill each day up. Do whatever you can today. Don't put it off for tomorrow, because as we've learned from this, tomorrow's not promised in certain arenas and certain aspects of people's lives. So hopefully that is a lesson that we could all take from this. We'll see.
And it's not just the seniors, obviously, who lost their season, the underclassmen as well. And sophomore and junior year is really considered to be the peak of college recruiting season, especially really for the spring athletes who are going to have to make that college decision before they play their senior season in the spring. Do you have any advice for those athletes as far as how they can try to bolster their resumes further without competing on the field this spring for their school?
You want me to go?
Yeah, sure.
So again, I think high school athletics is a different perspective. I know that there are people who look at it as that opportunity and as that kind of recruiting thing. But for me, educational athletics, athletics in the school setting is different. I think it is more about attacking the day, like Joe said. I think it's more about how do you work with others. When you're on that recruiting track, you're with all kids that are being recruited or trying to be recruited. When you're in high school, you're with every kid from your community. And I think it takes a lot more of a skill set to be a leader. I think it takes a lot more of a skill set to problem solve and to get a group of people who have most likely been together since kindergarten or since they started playing that sport to stay cohesive and to want to work together towards a common goal. So although I think the recruiting piece is important, and I don't even know what it's going to look like for the summer, that's out of our purview, but those were always experiences that kids got on the outside on their own. And I think that's, a family's direction on how they choose that future kind of path. But the here and the now of education and building resilient kids and building kids with grit, I think is where we have our opportunity to thrive. And we have our opportunity to say to kids, like, your season is 70 days, commit everything you can to those 70 days, get the best out of it and the most out of it, and come in to August, if you're a fall sport underclassman athlete, ready to do all those things and whatever it is to make your team better, not the aspect of your recruiting process.
I think the landscape of recruiting and the tie between, I think, the college commitments and high school programs, that is widened. There's more of a disconnect now than there was a long time ago. Now we sound like our parents now when we're talking this way. But kids now, with the resources they have from a technology standpoint, and they really have to own the process themselves and become marketers of themselves if they really want to go and play collegiate athletics. I'm a firm believer where, I get entertained when I see all these signings and all these different things that take place in local media, and the Division III signing, and when people signings for a national letter of intent for a scholarship dollars. But that being said, that's great. That's an awesome opportunity for them, and that's a great accomplishment for that athlete, and something to be celebrated for that family and for that accomplishment. But if an student athlete wants to go play at the next level, I'm a firm believer there's a home for everyone. There's Division I, there's Division II, there's Division III, there's JUCOs. So if that's something you really want to do, well, you need to take on an active role and market yourself to those locations. Be a smart consumer. Where do you want to go to school? What type of school do you want to go to? Do that whole matrix and outline of what would be a good fit for you, and then proactively do it. Now it's a unique opportunity for athletes who are in the COVID era, where if I was a college coach, you want to recruit character, you want to recruit student athletes, you want to recruit families that are good. I'd be looking out. What did Johnny or what did Janie do during COVID? What did they do from, not necessarily a brag file, but what did they do for training? Did they do something for their community? Did they do something to keep their team involved through Zoom conferences? How did you participate in a global community when you were quarantined? Because those are the skills that you're going to want where you want your athletes to possess with the clock's running down and the ball's in their hands. But what are they going to do? What are they going to think about? How are they going to think on their feet? How are they preparing for the next step? So I think it actually, as crazy as it may sound, it could be a unique opportunity to add another feather into a potential recruit's cap, how they could be valuable at the next level to a program.
I think we spend a lot of time talking about leadership and character and how we develop those things. And I think what you see most, especially during a time like this, you could be a leader with the best of intentions, but you're really only truly labeled a leader if you can get people to follow you. And you also need to have the skill set to follow somebody. As a great leader, you need to know when to step back and to let somebody else lead or to take someone else's direction. And how do you build people up? And I think those are skills that high school programs really have a unique opportunity to allow kids to do. I mean, looking just at our schools and the opportunities that schools offer outside the athletic venue, kind of like Joe said, what else are you doing to make yourself a better person? And why does that school, why does that recruiter have to have you? What are you going to be able to bring to their program immediately? Not 3 years from now, once you get their training, not once you're part of their system. What do they get right now when you walk in the door? What can they expect from your character, your effort, and your energy?
And now both of you have spring programs and really programs all year long that expect to be competitive year in and year out. This year was no different. And aside from the athletes simply losing their season here, is there a level of disappointment that you lose what you were hoping would be a successful season for the athletic program at your schools?
Of course, I mean, losing the opportunity is I think the biggest loss. We're in positions as athletic directors where winning is a byproduct of not only the skills of the athletes involved and the coaches who are there, culture. There's a lot of factors that play a role. Barry and I, at least I have a philosophy where, we put the oars in the water and the coaches and kids row. So historically, we have programs that are successful from one season to the next. So is it disappointing that they don't have an opportunity where they potentially had a good season lined up? Absolutely. But I'm not any less disappointed for the section finalist candidate or potential sectional final winning team than I am a team who might be an upstart who kids are playing for the first time and they're trying to figure out a new sport. So it's really just losing that overall opportunity. And if you are part of a program where it's cultural to advance to a championship weekend, that's going to hurt. And especially if your program's used to that and, you haven't done it your sophomore or junior year and you're going to senior year, like this is the year we're going to do it. And that was taken away. That's an additional blow for some of these kids and any program across our region, whether in any spring sport, whether it's baseball, softball, lacrosse, what have you.
Yeah. And we all have unique characters and the way they lead their programs are different. I have Coach Shapp who has sent me pictures and things that he sends out to his kids where he's in his uniform on game days still, like he was following his full schedule. He was reading kids' lineups. He was naming starting pitchers and telling whoever needed to bullpen, pictures of him doing his signs so the kids wouldn't lose what the signs were. And I went as far as I was on Zoom with the boys lacrosse program, who's the defending sectional champions, and what that feels like and what that sounds like and how the coaches frame, what this season could have been, what they thought it would have been, and the fact that it hasn't been, that you still sit in that leadership seat and people have to come get you. So if you're a sophomore, you're a junior on this team, even though you didn't play this season, you're still on the sectional defending championship team. And what are you going to do to make this team better a year from now when we come back? Because we worked all year round to get to this point, and now you're going to have to do the rest. And, Coach Barnard charged them with the underclassmen with, this is your responsibility. This is your duty to the seniors that did not have an opportunity to defend that championship this year. And just to kind of see their level of engagement was really interesting from high school, 15 and 16-year-olds.
I would say to the senior athletes that are going off to school, I had a conversation with one of mine, and encourage them to, all right, maybe you're not a Division I athlete, you're not recruited to go play on a Division III team, Division II team, but you're still young and still have a lot to offer to get involved with a club team when you get onto campus, or intramurals. So those are all great activities to still be a part of. And the key that I told this individual was, you have no idea, because I think they're a pretty damn good athlete, and I think they just need another year or two to develop in a sport. You have no idea what doors may open down the line, or when you're playing intramurals, or when you're playing on a club team, to potentially open a door to the varsity program at that college. You never know. And if it's something you're really passionate about, keep doing it.
I agree with that. You have to follow your passion. You have to find opportunities. And when you get to the collegiate level, at least for me, like Joe and I, will never know what we taught them or what they've learned in school until they take it to the next level and apply it to how they're going to use it in their real life. You know, once the safety of Mamaroneck High School or Rhinebeck High School is gone, what do you do with it? How do you grow? How do you build?
And you both bring up, having teleconference conversations with some of your athletes. And I'm curious what it's been like to run these programs remotely, and not just interscholastic athletic teams, but, physical education curriculums, just trying to keep everyone. I don't know what that's been like. I'm curious to get your thoughts on how that process has not just taken place, but kind of morphed over time, because it's been about a month and a half now.
Sure. We've been using online platform SportsU for all of our coaches to maintain contact with their kids, providing motivational quotes, practice plans, individual workouts, things of that nature, just to maintain contact. So I feel like it's been easier from the athletic arena for them to maintain contact because there's already pre-existing relationship. There's a culture there. There's a way of going about communicating. I think physical education and health have its own separate challenges, because you have a lot of people that are in the profession where there's going to be a learning curve here. You get to physical education to be interacting personally with people and to demonstrate and to execute, not only physically, but what's the cognitive and effective impact of what you're learning, and how are you going to be lifetime learners and physical fitness. And your lessons aren't designed to do that through a computer screen. You have to make some adjustments, and you have to figure out other ways to get that curriculum and content across. But I think we'd all agree that in-person education is better than remote education. And I think this is forcing all educators, not just physical education and health, but learning new skills of how to do this. And we won't know the real effectiveness on students for quite some time, which is just scary unknown.
I agree with that. Because of the impacts and the timing of everything, I didn't go to SportsU as far as the platform for our interactions, and I let coaches stick with what they had done prior. So they are doing, the inspirational quotes. They're doing the meetings via Zoom or Google Meet. We're doing the workouts going out electronically. But I agree with Joe 100%. Those relationships were there. Those structures are there. That two-way communication has always been there. So to add it's just an extended period of time that it's happening now. But they did it anyway. They would do it on the weekends. They would do it after a hard game. They would do it with a person, with one of their coaches would always interact with a player that they thought was down or could be getting a little more from. You're not talking to them the same way in practice in front of everybody as you could have a conversation with them after. The physical education and the health has been more difficult. I mean, again, kids are doing all their work on a computer screen. We didn't want all their health and PE to additionally be on a computer screen, at least in Mamaroneck. So originally it was, what can we do immediately to engage kids? And it was different by level. So I think Joe will agree with me that as an athletic director, if you split up our day, the majority of our time is spent on athletics when we're in season. And then when this happened, it immediately flipped to physical education and health needed a little more attention and a little more of our time. Over time, what I've noticed is the lessons are the lessons and the curriculum are the curriculum. What kids, especially at the elementary and middle school level, are missing are that interaction. So just getting teachers more comfortable. It's not necessarily what your physical education lesson is. That's going to be up there. What your health lesson is, the content's going to be up there. But like, what kind of message can you send for the day to continue to remind your students that you care about them? That, a lot of teachers in classrooms always refer back to, things that happen in their life, or, things they see outside, or situations that have presented themselves, and just getting teachers to continue to let students in on that lens of their world and let them know that everything's going to be okay and that they're here and they care. And if you can't do the assignment today, you just have to communicate that to me. It's different. You're not walking into my classroom to tell me that you can't, that you had something else going on. So I think that lens of personal communication has been paramount, as we hit week 4, week 5, week 6, to just continually remind them it's going to be okay. We're still here. We still care, and we're still available.
I think we're obviously biased, but I think that phys ed teachers, health teachers, and coaches, I think they're exceptional at reading body language and reading social cues and reading physical cues, and that's been taken away. So you can't really get that through Zoom, or you can't get it through online services of curriculum. So a real valuable skill set that our staff members have has been taken away. Kids sometimes are not comfortable expressing it in words, and they might not want to type it or email it. But when you're in a gymnasium or on a field, or you're in a health classroom, and you see, reactions and body language of different content, that gives an opportunity for a teacher to follow up with that and to ensure that either they're attaining the knowledge, or if there's a discomfort, or maybe there's something else going on here that a teacher needs to be aware of and get other people in the circle to help out. So it's a challenge for sure. And hopefully it's over sooner than later. But as Barry said, right now there's no timeline on this.
Right, and obviously every effort was made before the word came down a week ago to have some semblance of a spring athletic season. I'm wondering what the immediate fallout was when Governor Cuomo announced that school wouldn't be returning to in person this year. Just wondering, what kind of storm might have been going off. I think it was on a Friday, classic Friday news dump.
Right.
And what kind of position that put you in, and how you had to instantly react to that.
Well, that's exactly what we had to do. The timing wasn't great. So, we all were prepared for, we've been preparing for weeks for the bad news to come. But when it does happen, I don't know if you could ever, again, I don't think the Friday delivery was great from a timing standpoint, but you need to react right away. And you need to get your communication out. You need to get the information to your coaches, and you want to do as best you can to knock down any static that might be out there. And you want to be the messenger of the information and have it be as up to date and accurate as possible. You didn't want to let go a weekend of people trying to figure out, what does this mean? How does this? You have to reach out to your coaches right away, get them the message, and get a notice out to the community as well. I think a lot of people. Sorry, Barry.
That's okay. I was going to say, I also think that having been prepared slightly for that message, knowing that it could go one of two ways. And Joe and I both sit on leadership committees within the section. So our section executive director, Todd Santa Barbara, also has done a good job. Our communications between schools, sometimes it's like, hey, Mamaroneck does this, Rhinebeck does this. I think that our communications between schools have been really streamlined through this process. And I didn't feel like either one of us, or even,
right.
When you look at our league, you look up and down Boston Post Road, and if Scarsdale's doing this and New Rochelle's doing that and White Plains is doing that, like, people want to compare these things. I think that the best thing we did was we were on a common page. We all knew the potential for it to come, and our communication was prepared and articulate and clear to everybody that we had done everything we could up to this point, and we were prepared for whatever was presented. But having a common message from an executive director really helped the process.
And I think a challenge, and to echo what Barry said, Todd Santa Barbara has done an amazing job with communication and hosting meetings and just keeping all of the member schools informed of what's going on. I think one of the many frustrating parts of the pandemic is, by nature, Barry and I and athletic directors, we want to go. We want to get things going. We want to take the next step. We want progress. Right now, everybody's in pause. So you want to prepare and you want to put all these things in place, but you're really paralyzed where you can't really do too much, or you don't want to put too many ideas and plans in place because it may change at the very last minute. So if I was our executive director of Section 1, I would probably be feeling some frustration because everyone's waiting for guidance. You're not on your own to go do and take steps, because it's safety and it's health, and it's everyone's dealing with it. It's not something minor that each district can put their own little spin on. It's not a start date. It's not holding a team or not running a team. It's, are we able to operate as a society? So I think that's part of the frustrating parts, is we want to go and get going and get things done and have answers for the fall, and we just can't.
And good that you bring up the fall, because that was the next thing I wanted to touch on was, I know the state's been establishing a committee to explore the possibilities for the summer and the fall. I know that we don't have any information yet about what might happen, but just in terms of your gut, are you hopeful that fall contests are going to happen, whether they're on time or not? any expectations that you know in terms of fans in attendance versus not? Any information you have, or any, or just what your hopes are at this point.
Yeah, Barry.
Thanks. I would like to say we're always hopeful and we're always optimistic, and we are going about our business as we're starting this fall on August 24th. I mean, I know that everything that I have done has been in anticipation of that date, always with the caveat that this too could be adjusted. Again, Joe started this whole conversation with safety is paramount. If we're still wearing masks in a society, I think it is unrealistic for us to think that we could be on any sports field at any point in time. If we're social distancing in classrooms, there's no way we can put 24 people running around on a field touching each other at any point in time. I think those are unrealistic expectations. So really taking the signs as they come from society, having communities that follow the rules and wear masks and do what they're supposed to right now, I think will be the best way to set us up for success come the fall. I mean, there are so many unknowns that I can't foresee into the future. The state association did issue kind of a COVID-19 press release as of yesterday. It answers the fact that there's not a lot of answers to the questions, but it puts all the questions that many of us as athletic directors, as parents, as community members have out there, as far as, season length, what are we doing? Are we doing anything different for the fall than we're doing right now? Can you start going again? And I don't think we can. So I think the best thing that we can do is follow the rules that society has in place to meet all the safety needs and try and get everyone better and in a better place to be safe and healthy. And then people like Joe, people like me will be ready to go. We're going to have everything ready.
I mean, we're hopeful and we're preparing as if August 24th is going to happen. We're getting our supplies in order. We're hiring coaches. We're building our schedules. We're planning the homecomings. We're doing all the things that we'd be doing. I think a challenge that all educators will have, and athletic directors in particular, when and if we get a green light to operate in one way, shape, or fashion, there's going to be lag time on certain things that we're going to have to put in place. So we're going to, need partnership and patience from communities saying, yeah, we'll get this going, but there might be a lag time in a piece of equipment because the manufacturer they're not open right now. Schedules might have to be adjusted because you might not be able to play certain games on certain days because of the condensed schedule, or who knows what other elements are going to be. I think if we're able to get any type of activity going on, that's a win. There may be a lot of different iterations or styles in which that happens, but we'll need to have patience and make the best of whatever situation gets thrown our way.
I also think that it's going to have implications. The school-based programs are one piece of it. We live in a densely populated community where we share resources with our youth programs. I think that they're always flexible with us. I know Joe and I feel the same as far as those youth programs are feeder programs to our school programs. We value them very much on how they happen and what they do for our school-based programs, but we're going to have to work even harder and be more flexible with each other on our shared facilities and what that looks like, and how we may have to support each other.
Right. A good thing and a bad thing about this is the Marinek's not going to make a decision where we're going to do sports and Rhinebeck's not going to have sports. It's going to be across the board in the section and the industry. Sports are either going to be happening or not happening. And when they do happen, there will be that rush where everybody's going to want to do it. And they're all going to want to do it at the same time, the same locations. And that'll be part of the juggling act that we'll have to do. I hope we have that problem.
Right. I agree.
All right, Barry and Joe, thanks so much for joining me today. Thank you for all the work you've put in so far through this crisis, and the work yet to come to hopefully get all our athletes back on the field as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, I think I speak for Barry and myself. Thank you for all you do for our athletes and individual schools, and you hang in there and keep doing what you're doing. Hope your daughter's not driving you too crazy.
I agree with what Joe said, all the above, and that people don't make you crazy in your own house. That goes for everybody. And then also to be well and be safe, and just stay in touch. If there's any questions or anything that we could do, this was great. Thank you for including us and letting us have the opportunity to kind of put things out there. We appreciate it.
And we're happy to, if you want to set anything up in the future, I'm sure Barry and I would, whatever we can do, just let us know.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.